Welcome to our pod, and by that I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now we are investigating the Dublin Murder Squad. And we're covering chapters 1 through 12 of Faithful Place, a book that I want to say The Faithful Place or A Faithful Place. And it's really annoying because in two books, there's one called The Secret Place, and it's confusing.
That is confusing. I did not know that.
Yes, just
it is
so you
very
know,
confusing.
In a couple books, we are going to be reading The Secret Place. And I do think that that one also features Frank Mackey.
What?
He's not the main character, but he's a character in that
There's
book.
too much Frank. Frances, get out of here.
She really loves Frank. I kind of understand. I am a little partial to Frank as time goes on, but it is weird to be like, oh yeah, he comes back in The Secret Place. Why is
I can
he her
understand why she
favorite?
has a soft spot for her Frank, because here's my thing, Hannah. This is the lit fic book.
It's a lit fic book, and it's the first book that actually makes sense as a murder mystery.
Yeah.
Like weirdly enough, where it's like, oh,
I've already
this
called
is...
it. I know who the killer is.
Oh, well, I'll ask
Halfway
you at the
through.
end of this, who the killer is. But like,
I've already called it because
I mean,
my lit fic brain was just like working, and I also feel like it seemed a little formulaic a little bit, and I just was like, oh, I know it. So halfway through, I think I know what happened. This is a bold claim from me, Hannah.
I know. Well, we'll ask you at the end of the episode
Guessing.
because I always do. So,
But this is the lit fic book
hold your
because
horses.
the last one was
it's-
more thriller.
Yes, the last one was much more thriller. The first one was just weird. Like it was an abnormal novel. And
Yeah,
these
the first one
are
got people's attention.
yes, the first one got people's attention. This is a more formulaic book, but it feels like she's kind of cooking when it comes to like actual real world stakes for the first time. It felt like the other two are
Yeah,
kind of like out of this world, and this is the first one that feels like it has legs.
this one is the one to me where I'm like, yeah, I keep calling it the lit fic book because it seems like very much like a family drama. We're
Mhm.
dealing with a person who's reflecting on their own life and current experiences and trying to connect the two. Lit
Well, and
fic
Frank has
all
the most
over.
past. Like he has a
Yeah.
past and a history that isn't like I'm gonna look back. Like he has to deal with it
You
during
mean
every
his
single
past
chapter.
isn't? I've come across many of my own doppelgangers.
Or just like her being like, I was an orphan, so I had no family. And Frank is like, I have the most family, actually. So why don't
Yeah.
we talk about it?
Or being
Um,
like, I may have totally blacked out in a situation where some of my childhood friends disappeared. And then I went to a boarding school and lied to everyone a lot. And then I
yes,
grew up and I lied a lot more
more.
and fell in love with a
Well,
child
and there
and
are
didn't
certain
believe
moments
my
where like
partner.
Frank is making mistakes, but they're not at the level of the other two's mistakes. Like
No,
it
no, no,
feels
no,
like they're
no, no.
mini mistakes. And I'm like, well, he's just acting like a human. So here
Yeah.
we are. Which is probably why I have a soft spot for Frank too,
hmm
because he's the first
hmm
one acting like a real person. So
Just a little more competent than previous installments, perhaps.
it's
Tana
not
French
just
even
like,
like got her own notes and she was like,
mm.
yeah, I need to correct that a little.
Course correct. But
Even this is
Laura,
too fantastical for me, Tana French.
before we get into the realistic novel, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So I have been reading lots of manga. I
Beautiful.
yeah, I read
Happy
the
holidays.
Happy Holidays, all manga mania. Merry manga. It is I don't know why I said it is. But I have been reading lots of manga. I checked out the first four volumes of Blue Box by Kuji Miura on Libby. I really like this manga so far, and I'm disappointed that they only had the first four volumes available because now I have to hunt down all the rest of the volumes because
Oh
this is such an
no.
adorable story. It's about a two high schoolers, a badminton player who really like has a deep crush on a older basketball player and admires this girl and everything, and then finds out that this girl's family is going to be moving out of the country, and so she won't be able to be competing in the basketball like championships anymore that she's been working towards. But when he gets home, he realizes that the basketball girl that he has a crush on, basketball player girl that he has a crush on, is moving in with him and his family
Ooh.
because his mother has offered to house and foster this girl for a year to finish out her basketball career at her current school in her current program. So it's this very cute and like awkward situation where we have two teenagers who definitely have crushes on each other, who are working really
Yeah.
hard towards adjacent goals. I mean, one is in badminton, trying to develop skills to be able to increase their standing within badminton. And the other one is, I cannot say badminton for the life of
Badminton?
me. I can't, badmittens, you know. You know what I'm talking about. That word is difficult for me today. But and a girl who is playing basketball who is working towards state or nationals. I can't remember a tournament of sorts, a trophy of sorts, championship. I am
Okay.
not a sports person, but I do enjoy
No.
these cute little mangas where we have a slow burn romance of like two adorable little people who are extremely respectful of each other and just motivated because they see how motivated other people are and how hardworking other people are. It really reminds me of a side character's love story that I binged 20 volumes of in
Oh,
2024. And I just really love a slow burn where the characters are incredibly kind and respectful towards one another. So, yeah, and there's really great side characters in this too. I would not say a ton is happening. It's an extremely slow burn, but it's so sweet and I love it and I need more volumes of it. And I think I need to just lean into more manga that's kind of just like slice of life, slow burn romance like this that's just like not a lot is happening because whenever I read one, I become obsessed. And I
yeah.
don't know why, but it's so consumable for me to just read something like this.
That kind of like brings me back to the like Archie comics of it all growing up. Like, did you ever read Archie comics?
No, I was
Okay.
into Calvin and Hobbes though as a child.
Oh, yeah, I do think that Calvin and Hobbes falls within that as well. My mom was a grocery store manager growing up, and so I spent a lot of time reading Archie comics because they were
Hmm.
you could read them up at the front of the store while you
Sure,
were waiting for your mom to be done with work.
sure, sure.
But I wonder if that's kind of what you're getting into of like that little like old school comic strip vibe, like flashbacks, but for an
Maybe.
adult.
I mean, I feel like it's less comic strip. I don't know. It seems like more long form story
That's
than
fair.
comic strips have ever felt to me. But uh, yeah, I just really enjoy a sweet romance story of two people who feel awkward around each other. And like, even though they live in the same home, they're like, we have to go separate ways so no one knows we live at the same place. I'm like, you are such awkward children where this could easily be explained and no one would
Who
think it's
are
weird.
they? Frank Mackey?
It's so funny to me though. And again, this is like an adult reading a book that's aimed at high schoolers, but it's so cute to me to think that there are high schoolers who are like, no one can know. They'll think it's scandalous if we're coming from the same home. And it's like easily explained away. No one's gonna be weirded out by this. Like, it seems like a common occurrence. Stop freaking out. So it's very adorable. And then I
Calm down.
calm down. And then I read volumes 12 and 13 of Spy Family. What a great manga. Just so fun and zany and just always going off the rails with things that are happening. Lloyd Forger, I love you. Anya, you are hilarious and always a good time. Yeah, Tatsuya Endo is the uh, creator and illustrator, author of this manga. Really great job at just creating zany characters who are just all over the place being ridiculous and heartwarming. I really like Spy Family. Then I've also been reading Witch Hat Atelier, getting caught up on that. I got uh,
Oh, it's been a
volumes
while
10
since I've heard you
through
mention Witch Hat Atelier.
because I had originally got it on Libby and I
Mm,
was only able to access through volume 9 of Witch Hat
okay.
Atelier on Libby. And I had requested the other volumes on Libby, but they never added them to the Northern Illinois Library. Libby, if you're
Mm,
listening, this is my
get
gripe.
on
You
that.
need to add your manga volumes faster. But I was recently able to acquire the print volumes of 10 through 12, or no, 10 through 13 from the library. So I've been working my way through them. I'm in the middle of volume 12 right now of Witch Hat Atelier. It took me a beat to catch up in volume 10 because it'd been so long since I had read volume 9 of Witch Hat Atelier to like kind of remember what had been going on. But about a chapter in, I was starting to be like, oh, yes, I remember this was happening and this was happening. And now in the middle of volume 12, I'm like, I'm loving this again. Why are these characters so heartwarming? And why do I love Master Ollie so much? He is the best. So, and the other thing too, like the artwork in Witch Hat Atelier, this is not news to anyone who is familiar with this manga, but the art is fantastic. It is so beautiful that as I'm reading, I'm like, I better just take a picture of this real quick because
Mm.
it's so gorgeous. Yeah, it's really great. And there's even some like beautiful dragons that have appeared in uh, some of the chapters recently, and I just really love how it looks. It's really gorgeous. And then for other things I've been enjoying, Hannah, I started watching Heated Rivalry.
Oh my goodness. Laura, did your brain explode with the heat? Because you have a threshold and it's 2026, so that got revamped. But like usually,
I'm almost at the threshold.
okay, what are
My
you,
sexy
15
threshold
minutes
has
in?
almost reached.
Are you 15 minutes in? Is
I
that
no,
where
no, I am
it?
through episode 3. I think there's 6 episodes. So
Okay.
probably by the end of the season, I'll have reached my sexy threshold. So unfortunately, hit the threshold early this year.
Yes, you
My
did. That's
quota has been met.
it's always Bridgerton or another little sexy show that you find, I feel.
Here's the thing, people hyped it up so much online that I was like, I'll be watching. So I did. And I get it. I get it. I
Oh,
get why
Laura
people like it.
says, go watch it, everyone.
Yeah, it is very sexy. I mean, it's a story of two hockey players who have a this is not spoilers. Everyone
No,
knows this is going to happen.
everyone knows
Enemies
this.
to lovers. Enemies to lovers situation. And I have been really liking how the show is like progressing with the characters, that
Hmm.
it's actually showing like, oh yeah, they do have some bumps to get through, and we do have characters who are, you know, working through different types of situations. I have heard that the book does a lot better job of detailing this out even more so, because we do have a
Okay.
character who is bi in the show, and I guess that's expanded upon a lot more in the books. But yeah, from what I have seen of the show, very sexy, but also very good. I mean, it's interesting to watch. It's one where I'm like, oh, okay, I wouldn't have thought about like this type of thing happening, because I don't know why I kind of just like think of like professional sports players as just like not having lives
Yeah.
outside of sports and everything. So yeah, for
Shut
them
up
to
and
like,
dribble. Laura would like that on the record, she thinks.
yeah, get back on the court. Women are told to get back in the kitchen, get back on the
Get
court.
back on the court. You shouldn't be out here with your love
What are you
interests.
doing? Having a life. How dare you? No, but I don't know why. It's like when I see a teacher that I had in school, like at a grocery store, I'm like, what? You left the school? Uh, I don't know why my brain works like that. But no, I've really enjoyed watching this show. I think that the actors are really good, and yeah, I get why people are hyping it up so much, because it's definitely very sexy. But I also think that
Good.
good representation, and it brings up interesting points about like the way that people really idolize certain sports stars, and how there is a lot of pressure put upon
Yeah.
people in sports, professional sports at that level, in terms of like the sponsorships that they get and
Hmm.
their families and how they're representing their families, and like the things that they're doing to support their families once they've achieved a certain level of fame. So all of that is very interesting. And then just added layers of being queer when you are at such a high level of fame and recognition, and the responsibility to yourself to maintaining your own privacy, and also the pressure to want to be a good representative for other people, or like it's a really fine balance. And I'm not someone who I think, I don't know that I necessarily feel like people should have to come out, that type of thing. I
Right.
don't feel that at all. But I do think it brings up interesting discussions of like, should we be like putting the weight of all queer representation on one queer athlete, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I think that the show kind of like brings up those types of thoughts as I'm watching it. And I think that's great. So yeah, the show is a lot of fun. And I'm interested in
Good.
the book series now because this show is kind of like combining, I guess, two of the books'
Okay.
storylines and focusing a little more so on the enemies to lovers one. But the other one that's I'm just starting to like see more of this other storyline. It is very cute as well. So
Oh,
I'm
good.
excited to finish the season. Hannah, what have you been reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So for reading, I recently listened to Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary.
Yay! I
Um,
love that's one of my favorites.
I feel like I was pushing that off because I like, well, A, I want to go see the movie.
Mhm.
But B, it's really hard to find the audiobook because it's only available on Audible, which
Audible.
stinks. Andy Weir, work on that. Don't
Yeah.
let that get re-upped. But I think with him, I was like, oh yeah, I really want to read his books. I really want to read his books. And like it's 10 years in, it feels like, and I still
hmm
haven't read The Martian. So
The Martian is so good too. Those are both some of my favorites.
I know, and I've always wanted to see the movie, but I haven't yet either. And so
I
with
haven't seen the
Project Hail
movie of The
Mary
Martian.
coming out soon, I was in movie theaters and a spoiler got ruined for me. And so I was
Oh,
pretty bummed about it. I don't want to get into it because I
no.
don't want to ruin it for anyone else. It's a pretty big like twist. And so I'm a little surprised they put it in the trailer, to tell you the
hmm
truth, because there's enough there for Project Hail Mary to just be a good movie and get people in theaters. Where it's a man who wakes up on a spaceship and he doesn't know why he's there, but he slowly starts remembering
Yeah.
what got him there and how he was put there to save the world pretty much. That's
hmm
huge, and the audiobook is amazing. 10 out of 10 would recommend. If you can get access to it, do it, because what a wild time. I had the best time. I loved every single second of it, all 16 hours of it. um and
I
it,
do wish that audiobook was widely available though, because
mm,
I kind of hate when I know that a lot of authors, are doing Audible exclusives, but I kind of hate it a little bit. I hate
I
it a
hate
little
it
bit.
so much. I just don't like it at all.
It's
I'm
hard for
not a
me when I'm like,
huge
you know what? I get it. Authors got to do what's best for them. But at the same time, pull a Brandon Sanderson if you're that big and throw
right.
some weight around and be like, nah, I'm
I'm
going
not gonna
wide.
do that.
I'm going
Yeah.
wide.
I do feel that
Andy Weir
pretty.
probably has enough popularity
I
to be able to go
I
wider.
would hope so at this point, but like that is kind of my thing of like, I don't know. It just feels weird to have this be like an Audible exclusive. It's just not
hmm
my bag. Um,
Yeah, I don't like that. I think there's a few other series that I'm thinking of. Like, I know Travis Baldree is the narrator of the uh, Will White's series that is only available on Audible, the Cradle series. And I
okay.
kind of wish that one was available widely available, but it's not. It's Audible exclusive. I know that Brandon Sanderson was pretty firm, like, no, we're not gonna be just Audible exclusives. And I appreciate that, Brando. Like,
Yeah, I do
thank you.
too. Um, yeah, because I don't love that it's not available, but
hmm
I listened to it. I loved it. D- and the audiobook is amazing, so it is hard when it's like I understand
Yeah.
it's an Audible exclusive, but it is kind of worth it.
You
So
know what, friends? Make a fake email or make a new email and just use
sign up
those
for a fake
30
one. Yeah,
days to
just do
get a
it.
free
Um,
Project Hail Mary.
yep, just do it. Just do it. And
And don't
then
forget to cancel that subscription.
I also listened to Thornhedge. Wow, we both
By T. Kingfisher?
badminton by T. Kingfisher. Yeah.
Ursula.
I know, highly
We
recommended
love
all
you,
of those
Ursula.
things. So I have been wanting to read T. Kingfisher for quite a while now. Like
hmm
her books always feel like they're speaking to me, and I just have never picked one up. And so I finally listened to Thornhedge
hmm
on audiobook on Hoopla, and it was a good time. It was really good. It's a kind of a retelling of Sleeping Beauty
Sure.
with changelings and fairies and all these different things. And so it's dark, it's beautiful, it's really haunting, and highly recommend. I had a good time. I thought it was fun. Um, So Thorn Hedge was fun. I really want to read more of T. Kingfisher this year. It's kind of a goal
I
of
need to
mine.
read some of hers.
I know. I really love her covers. Like even this one, it is a little phallic because it's like a
Mm-hmm.
knitting needle with blood on the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I really just thought she did a good job. I gave it 3.5 stars. It's a lot of fun. It's good fantasy and it's very fast paced. So it's
I want
definitely
to
been
check out
on.
some of her horror.
Me too. We should do that. We should do that
Mm-hmm.
after we both finish our most recent buddy read.
Mm-hmm.
Um but yeah, so this one is more it's more like folklore, but I would say there are horror elements to it. And so
Okay.
that was fun. And then I did read the eighth of the Wayward Children series, Lost in
Oh
the Moment
yeah.
and Found. This one's one of the more like dark ones, I would say. All of hers are dark.
Mm-hmm.
But Shauna Maguire can pack a punch. But this one is about a girl whose stepfather is obviously grooming her, and
Mm.
she escapes into this different world where she again is kind of used and abused in ways that she didn't understand until it was too late. And it was very sad and very emotional, and I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. And I thought this one was one of like the sharper ones of Shauna Maguire. Like it just felt like
Mm-hmm.
it packed a punch, and the world that this person found themselves in was deep and dark still, and it wasn't just an
Mm-hmm.
escape for her. And I thought that that was very sad. Um, and I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was a really good installation into
Yeah.
this series because overall it's been a great time. I put it on my best of last
Mm-hmm.
episode, so I've
Yeah.
been happy to continue on with the journey. And then for watching, Laura, I have been watching, and I'm 2 episodes away from finishing Stranger Things.
Ah, yes.
Have
As is
you
the rest of the world.
have you been watching it at all?
No, I haven't even watched the season before this one, season
Oh,
four.
really?
I've
You
I've
have
only
dropped
watched through
off.
I've only watched through season three.
Okay, you only watched through the mall season. So you've
Mm-hmm.
you've never run up that hill.
Uh,
Well, it's season
and the
5
thing
and
is,
we're
I
I
don't
think you're
feel
fine.
super motivated to keep going.
My husband really loved the show a lot, and so we've kind of been
Hmm.
watching it a little bit for him. And I will say that like I watched season 4 with Veronica and now I've been watching season 5. Again, it's not like I don't know, I don't regret watching it, but I wouldn't say it's amazing.
Sure.
It's not like a magnum opus of wonderment. It's
Okay.
kind of it's hard because I do think Netflix really failed a lot of its television series around the pandemic time because they
No, Julie and the Phantoms was not failed. Oh, yes, it was.
Julie and the Phantoms. Um,
There
so
were so many series that they canceled that I'm just mad
well,
about.
it wasn't even just that. It's kind of uh, like even their bad TV shows like Ginny and Georgia, they just make wild takes where they're like, yeah, we understand that we shut down all of productions because of 2020, but we're not going to do a time jump. We're just going to continue with these adult children now.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so there are just a lot of moments of Stranger Things where you're watching it. And then all of a sudden, like one of us will be like, he's supposed to be 14. And then we just laugh because like they're obviously and aggressively not 14-year-olds
They're
anymore.
obviously 20.
And one of the characters is supposed to be in middle school and she's 19 in real life.
Oh
So
my
like she is
goodness.
a fully formed adult being like we're fighting because in gym class this happened. And you're like, this is wild. Like it's wild. And there's nothing else you can say other than that, but like
Right.
it is strange to me. I don't know what to do about it. It's not bad per se because the storytelling is good, but it feels like
Hmm.
it should have happened 4 years ago. And it's kind of
I
like
know a
the
lot of people
how
were fairly satisfied with how it ended.
yeah, I'm sure the ending will be satisfying. There are certain things that I'm like, oh, thank God that happened because if it didn't happen that way, I would have been really frustrated.
Hmm.
Um, but it kind of feels like sometimes this is a show that almost got the How I Met Your Mother treatment of like, do you remember how unsatisfying How I Met Your Mother was? And it was because like in season 1 or 2, they were like,
In what way?
we think we know how the show will be great when it ends. And it's like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
if that had happened in season 4 or 5, you probably would have been chill with the way the show ended. It went on for 10 seasons, so you should have changed your minds. You got too holden on how you wanted the story to go, and you just couldn't let it go. And so I do think sometimes it does. err on that side of like the Duffer Brothers really wanted the show to be a certain thing. And then when life changed, they couldn't change with it. And that is frustrating.
I think it's also hard too if you're talking about like shows like How I Met Your Mother, when they go on too long,
Yes.
it's difficult for audiences to stay on board with things, even if it was something that, like you mentioned, like, oh yeah, we would have wanted this during X season or Y season. But when the show lasts too long, it's very hard to be okay with a decision
Yeah.
later on when you've had to deal with, because honestly, there are points in How I Met Your Mother where you're just like, I just don't care about what's happening right now. Like, I
Yes.
could not give a crap about this.
Yes. Very much so. And I do think that that is kind of the thing of like, at one point, I was like, I'm really glad. And this sounds so mean. I was like, I'm so glad that I don't have to see Elle and Mike together. Like, because for long periods of time, they're just not together. And I was
Sure.
like, I think I would be very frustrated watching them because I don't care about them very much anymore, you
Hmm.
know?
Just
And
over it.
yeah, I'm very much over it. And like, uh, some of the things, it's weird connections, it's weird everything. So,
Hmm.
I do think they made some striking changes that are very helpful.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm not mad I'm watching it, but I don't, it's kind of like it ended with a whimper. Like,
Sure.
that's my feeling on it.
I'll get around to
But
it eventually, I think, but
yeah.
I'm in no rush.
So, but that's, and then I watched the Taskmaster Champion of Champions episode.
Same. Same.
Great. Um,
Who did you want to
Attila
win?
the Hun, he's super fun.
Welcome to Attila's, where we
We think
think
Attila the
Attila the
Hun
Hun
is
is super
super
fun.
fun. So
Did
yeah,
you
that
watch the
was,
extended cut of the
yes, I
first
did.
task? Wild.
They, what a wild show. It's so funny
I
because
think
we were
it's one of
watching
those that's
it.
like a perfect example of like how some of these people are different it, from not only episode to episode, but you get them back for a Champion of Champions. They act very different. I know a lot of people were
Yes,
saying that about Sam Campbell. They're like, wow, he was like so put together in his season. And people are like, yeah, that's definitely jet lag because I've seen him perform live wild shows. So, and it's more along the lines of like what he was doing in the Champion of Champions episode.
very much so. That was the thing, was we were watching Sam Campbell, and my husband loves Sam Campbell. He thinks he's amazing. He is just perfect. But
He's very funny. My husband loves Sam too.
it was one of those things where at one point the people in my household were laughing, and I was like, guys, he was a champion. Like, he
Hmm.
won. He wasn't bad at this.
Right.
Um, so that was a very big joke. Um, but yeah, those are the things I've been watching, and that's pretty much it. So Laura, are you ready to dive in to Faithful Place, and not a
Faithful
faithful place, just
place.
Faithful Place, because it is a location.
It
Um,
is indeed a location.
with some wild parents who make me sad.
You know what?
Um,
I was gonna say they make me quite sad, all of them.
it was, this is it's obviously like I've actually read quite a lot of books weirdly that take place
Hmm.
in Ireland in the 80s.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Because this
And
is like 85, right?
yes, I believe so. Because I believe the book Shuggy Bane is during that time.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, in the 1980s. And that author wrote two different books that took place in the 1980s. Weird to
Hmm.
be like, I wrote that and it was amazing, so I'm going to do it again. But I read both of his books, and like this book took place in this, and I think there was another book I read that took place in the 1980s. So weirdly enough, I
Okay.
have a very specific snapshot of Ireland in the 80s and
Hmm.
the way parents acted, and a lot of them had drinking problems from like from the snapshots of books you're reading, you know. So
Hmm.
obviously
Hmm.
there's different monoliths, but I do feel like this is taking a very specific and stark look at a very specific time in life where Ireland was not doing well, and there was a lot
Yeah.
of economic strife, and it was very unfortunate.
Yeah.
So I do think
Agreed.
it's interesting that Tana French decided to kind of focus in on that for her
Hmm.
lit fic book, as Laura said.
Hmm. Yeah, it's
Um,
very much the fic book, and I think that plays into it, just
yeah.
the time period that she chose.
Hmm. So we have Tana French look back with Frank Mackey, Laura's favorite character.
I mean, he's not bad, but why do we need him in so many books?
I don't know. He's just, yeah, she just really was like, this is my lit fic. I want
I'm
him
doubling
everywhere.
down on this man.
Very
Okay.
much so.
Okay.
And
Whatever.
he's discussing knowing the moment when your life changes. And for him, it's when Rosie Daly left him. They were
Hmm.
supposed to run away together to England, and she had the ferry tickets, and he was waiting for her at the end of the drive or the end of the lane, and she never showed up. And he
Yeah.
said there might have been some miscommunication. And he goes into 16 Faithful Place, a
Yep.
rundown place where people used to go. And he found a letter, he memorized it, and he left it, and he disappeared. And Frank Mackey is such a down, like trodden, like I'm very logical, but he disappeared from his family's life for like 25 years.
It's so weird to me because he like we'll get there, but he goes back and he's like, "Why are you guys all angry at me?" I'm like, "What do you mean? Why are they all angry at you?
Why would they be angry at you,
Are
Frank?
you an
You
idiot? You just
disappeared
up and
from them.
left and didn't say anything to them."
And it literally took one of your sisters like running into you because you had to
Yeah.
talk to her and interview her. That's how you guys went back into each other's lives. Like it's wild that he has this reaction of
Yeah.
like, this is my place too. And like Frank, you objectively left.
Y-
Like
the-
you did not return.
yeah.
You
It blows my mind though that he's like, I just don't get why the dynamic is off between us all. Like, how can you not understand why the dynamic is off?
he
Weird.
just
You're
he's
supposed
Frank.
to be able to read situations. Apparently
Um
not.
so we meet Frank Mackey today. He has a daughter Holly he loves and an ex-wife Olivia who he makes fun of for dating a reasonable man because he's
Yeah, and
Frank.
also he like pats himself on the back like I can get hot women. Like, haha. Like okay,
But he does
cool.
talk. I do like that he kind of talks about how their marriage wasn't meant to last. Like he was like, "Oh,
Hmm.
we weren't well matched," and like her father was someone who bought the home, and they were more middle class. And he was always working, and he did like have to beg her for every weekend with his daughter because she's a
Hmm.
reasonable woman who thinks he works too much. But like you can tell that there's genuine affection for them and like a
Yeah.
better understanding as a divorced couple than they were married. And I do like I like
Yeah, it's a
showings of
healthy
that in
perspective.
novels. Yeah. And it shows it's good like character building for Frank of like he's not someone
Yeah.
who's sitting there being like, "Oh, she left me." He's like, "No, we were not meant for each other." Um Holly and him go back to his place, and he has a million messages on his phone from his sister
Hmm.
Jackie, who is the only sibling he's in contact with because a man flashed her one
Obvious
time
reasons.
and he had to like, interview her. They got
Yeah.
back together. He tells Holly to go on the internet, and it's I was like, "Hello, early 2000s," because he's like, "I usually don't let her go on the internet, but I'm gonna let her." And
Go in your room and be on the
he
internet.
calls Jackie back. There's a lot of back and forth during this time. There are so many parts of my notes that say pandemonium ensues. Like,
Pandemonium ensues.
because there are so many moments where he's trying to do something and like five other things are happening at once. So he's
Hmm.
like calling Jackie with a cigarette and trying to figure out what's happening. She's screaming in the
And his
phone. She's
daughter's
talking
like
about all the
giving him a
family.
hard time, like, you shouldn't smoke.
His daughter's asking him a million questions where she's like, I did an internet quiz and you're dying in your 50s. And Jackie's like, you have to come over right now. There was a developer, there's a suitcase, you got to get over here. And he's like,
Hmm.
what's happening? And that is
Hmm.
happening so often to Frank. But Jackie tells him that there is someone who was in the neighborhood tearing down 16 Faithful Place, and
Yep.
they found Rosie Daly's suitcase. They haven't called the
Hmm.
cops yet, but they don't know what to do. The Dalys are out of town for the night. So Frank ruins his ex's date to drop off Holly and tells her it's about his family. Throughout these
And
chapters,
she's like, she is kind of understanding, but at the same time, like miffed because she kind of thinks he's trying to just ruin the date.
yes, there is a part of her who is like, "Come on, dude, you want our child. Why are you dropping her for
Yeah.
work?" And he's like, "It's not for work, it's for family, and it's a whole thing." So
Hmm.
throughout these chapters, we do realize that Frank doesn't talk to any of his family members
Yeah. And it's
except
quite
for
awkward.
Jackie after the night he disappeared in the prologue. People in the neighborhood assumed he and Rosie ran away together because they were
Hmm.
dating at the time and in love, or people assumed they were dating because they
Yeah.
disappeared on the same night and they had been dating 2 years before. We find out they had been dating in secret after that as well. In
Hmm.
his head, he mentions things about them taking their birth certificate so that they could get jobs and get married in England. So, like, it was very serious.
Yeah.
They were 19 at the time. It's not like they were
And
16.
it's like romantic-ish, that they were. They grew up together. They were each other's first love, their first like person that each of them likely I think was with, and
Yes.
like the first person that each of them saw naked, so
It's a
I-
huge like part of them. Like they just feel very
mhm.
connected, or he felt
Yeah,
very connected to her. He talks about how he always expected her to come back. Like he thought she would change her
mhm.
mind, and like he very much was holding a torch for her all these years, it sounds like.
Yeah. And
Um,
even when he talks about her, he kind of makes comments about very, I should say, like very lyrical, like beautiful comments about like the way that she looks or the way that she smelled or dressed. And there's just like this love that you can pick up on just like if you love someone, all of the little things that they do you find very endearing.
yeah.
And that this is very much evident through
Well,
his language about her.
and I do think that this is the first time where like I'm not annoyed by a love interest of Tana French's book, where like it feels very innocent and beautiful instead of like
Instead of like a younger
obsessed.
girl or a
Yeah.
younger boy that you should not be getting involved with. That makes sense.
Or
Yeah.
like even Sam in the last book where it just didn't feel like she was that into him. Like this, oh, like to me always felt like, oh, Frank, even though he's holding a torch for someone who like disappeared, he
Mhm.
very much had genuine love for her and he was ready to build a life with her and he
Oh, for
sees it
sure.
for
And it was
what
like
it
a
is.
mutual love, it seems,
Yes.
too. So, yeah.
And he also reflects back on the note. We find out that it says something like, it says, I know this is going to be a shock and I'm sorry, but please don't feel like I messed you around on purpose. I never wanted to do that. Instead, she's going to off to England and she will be back one day. And this is where he's like, I really thought she would come back and we would be together.
Hmm.
But he goes home to Faithful Place. It's nearby the Guinness plant. It smells of fumes. It's an area with multifamily houses and renters mostly. Not many people
Hmm.
own. We find out that he lived in like a two-room apartment with his family, one room for girls, one room for boys. He has two older siblings, Shay and Carmen, who were born one
Caramel,
year.
right?
Carmel. Yes, you're right. Sorry, Carmel. Shay and then Carmel and then Frank all were born one year apart when the parents liked
Hmm.
each other, he says. And then Kevin came 5 years after Frank and Jackie 5 years after that. The dad was an alcoholic, and we find out through these chapters that he was abusive towards the mother. Um,
And yeah,
yeah.
we'll find out more later.
Exactly. And the family is in chaos. The mom is yelling, like, again, pandemonium. She's yelling at Frank, like, you need to call me Mammy. That's how you respect me. They're making jokes about Frank being a cop because it's not done in their neighborhood. They're doing,
Hmm.
and I said, they're doing stupid things like Shay is mocking him because he's concerned about fingerprints. And he's like, oh, you're just so good. You need fingerprints. And I'm like, that is actually something that, like, needs to be done. In the early 2000s, you would have known that.
It's
Like,
definitely one of those things, though, that you get the vibes of the siblings carrying this resentment of a
yes.
sibling who has quote unquote made something of themselves and
Gotten out. Yeah,
made it
made it
out,
out.
and
Hmm.
they feel a little bit betrayed that they are still there. And
Yes.
also, there's likely been, and I feel like a lot of times that resentment comes from the parents,
Mhm.
kind of making comments about, well, your brother did this and he is doing this now, blah, 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 blah. Not that we have a
But
lot of evidence of that, but
yeah,
I
it also
do think that
feels
that resentment kind of
there's
generally
definitely
feels connected.
all that resentment there, but there's also like a weird it it's definitely something where like I'm sure in our bonus episode we will talk about like abusive dynamics, like the dynamics of an abusive household where everything is kind of around one person and how to ensure that they're on like equilibrium because you don't want to mess
Hmm.
up anyone else. And Frank removed himself from that, which is what they all wanted to do. But there's resentment that he was able to do that, and resentment that he was willing to leave the family behind to do that and
Yeah.
leave them in pain. And I do
Hmm.
think that that is it's a hard line to walk because he's not wrong. But at the same time, like, he also didn't help fix anything. Like, he didn't
Sure.
help fix it for the mom or make anyone else in a safer place. He kind of just said, like, well, I'm out of here. And I do
And
think that there's a lot of
it's
push and
so
pull
hard
with
to
that.
judge someone in that situation. And I think
Right.
if you're in that situation, you're a sibling, you're still like, well, we can't leave because we need to protect our mom, that
Mm-hmm.
type of thing, or need to protect our younger siblings, etc. It is easier to think like, oh, we're going to judge our older sibling who just decided to leave,
Yep.
or one of our siblings who just decided to leave because I guess he's not the oldest.
No.
But I do think, though, it's interesting to me how when Frank comes back, they do kind of fall back in step,
Mm-hmm.
where
Oh yeah.
they very much kind of reconnect. The dynamic between all of them is still there, even though it's an awkward dynamic. That they still kind of have the same feelings towards each other,
Right.
and there's still a level of love there amongst
Right.
all of them, which I think is interesting. And it's a really good display of like complex family dynamics. This is why I'm calling it her lit fic
Yep.
book.
So they are kind of screaming, and you find out that like everyone except for Carmel pretty much touched the suitcase because they didn't
Yeah.
know whose it was. Like it was just a random
Hmm.
suitcase that people brought over.
Well, and like the
She,
builders touched it and stuff too.
right. And Shay broke it open. It has all of Rosie's clothes and the ferry ticket she was supposed to have for them. And they
Hmm.
all think she's likely dead, but Frank says he isn't sure that she could have just run away without the suitcase, that like she could have gotten held up,
He's
something
very
could have
much hopeful
happened.
that she didn't die, that she just like changed her mind and decided that she wasn't in love with him. And I think that's a little bit of his self-hating part of himself, that he's like, no, she really just never wanted to come with me because I hate myself and I suck. And that's why she didn't
And
want
a
to
little bit of
come.
like showing the family dynamics because his mom is severely in denial in a
Yeah.
lot of these sections, and I feel like that's something he does to protect
Hmm.
himself as well. So it's showing how they all are these types of
Yeah.
things. And so the kids go outside for a smoke and literally have specific spots they sit in.
Yeah.
Carmel is trying to catch Frank up on everything that's happened. Shay is pissed whenever Frank asks about the family, where he's like, "You don't have any business in our family. You left. You don't get to ask these questions."
Shay is
What?
the oldest brother.
Yes, Shay is the oldest brother. Um, and you find out that the dad has some back problems. They aren't sure with like what's going on.
Hmm.
Shay is hinting it's worse than what Frank sees right now, but like also he shouldn't ask about it. There's just a lot of resentment. Um,
Yeah, and there is like, and even though I said like they do kind of fall back in step, there is that resentment and also this type of bitterness where when Frank inquires about anything going on in their family, Shay for sure does not want to tell him because he's like,
yes.
you left, you aren't obligated, or you don't get to know that
Yeah.
information. You don't get to ask, you don't need to know because you're not
Yeah.
here. You're gonna leave again.
Exactly. So Frank decides to stay the night so he can catch the Doyles before his mom does the next day when they're coming home. And Kevin
Because this is
stays
just a gossipy neighborhood.
and Kevin stays with him. The implication is to kind of talk to him and catch up. And we find out that Kevin and
Hmm.
him, like Kevin feels very connected to Frank throughout these next
Hmm.
couple chapters. And they sleep on the pull-out sofa. Kevin asks why Frank joined the police, and he said it was just exciting to him.
Yeah.
And then they said that their dad freaked out when this happened. There's a lot of like they want there's there's a lot of resentment from the parents as well of like what you think you're better than us kind of energy,
Yes.
and that comes out with like finding out that Frank went into the police.
Hmm.
And Kevin also points out that Shay had a really hard time when Frank left. And Frank is like, I doubt it. Shay spent his life like beating the crap out of me. He did not care about me. What are you talking
Hmm.
about? And then the Dailies blamed Frank for their daughter running away. And like the mom even slapped the Mackey mother. It was not good.
Hmm.
So Frank reflects on the letter. He thought it was meant for him, but now he's not so sure because it wasn't addressed to him, that
Yeah.
Rosie left behind. And he realizes maybe she left it for her family, but he always thought she'd be back one day. He doesn't sleep, the best thing for detectives. And in the
Hmm.
morning,
Well, and he says something like, "Oh, I
I'm
don't
like a
need that much
camel.
sleep."
Like I store
He's
it up
like,
when I can.
yeah, he's like, "I'll
Uh,
just like have one day where I sleep like 12 hours and then I'll go like a week without sleeping." I'm like, that's
exactly.
not healthy.
Uh, and so his mom makes a huge fry up, then gets mad when Frank and Kevin blow it off to go talk to the dailies about the suitcase. And
Hmm.
again, it is pandemonium. Frank has Kevin handle the dad to get Frank in the door. He says like he never liked the Mackeys, but everyone loves Kevin.
Hmm.
And we find out that the Mackeys hated the dailies because again, it's the whole "you're better than me." The dad had a job at Guinness and
Yeah.
he had purchased his apartment, and they thought that that meant he had heirs.
Hmm.
But the Mackie mom also thinks that the Daily mom was jealous of her because she had more kids. She had 5 kids, and the Daily mom could only have 2. And apparently, we find out that the Mackie dad would scream at the Daily dad from the house at night sometimes to come and fight him when he was
Yep.
drunk because he thought he put on airs. Kevin does get them in the door, and he tells them about finding the suitcase. Frank asks them if they've heard from Rosie, and it's revealed that they had originally assumed she had like run away with Frank and he
Sure.
wasn't allowing her to reach out to them. But then And like even when they got a phone number for the first time, they like the mom gave the number to the Mackeys in case Frank ever reached
Hmm.
out to give it to Rosie. But then when they found out that he was still in Ireland and he didn't leave with her, they just kind of assumed she had run off by herself and she would be back
Right.
one day. Um, they talk about the stuff in the suitcase, and the sister Nora says she had used the Walkman the Thursday before the Sunday night that Rosie disappeared.
Hmm.
And that Sunday, she had come home, gone to mass with the family, seen her grandmother, and kind of had like business as usual until she took the suitcase, which was actually her mother's from the honeymoon. So
Right.
he kind of gives them a run around saying he doesn't want to get other police involved because they won't take a cold case like this seriously. And he kind of wants to like
Which
look at
might be somewhat true, but
yeah, but also weird to be like a missing woman from
hmm.
like a nice Irish home. You know, it was just like it was a
Yeah.
little weird to me to be like, I'll look on the down low. And I'm like, Frank, you will be a suspect if this blows up and if
Yep.
she's dead. But he does talk about how he never thought she would be dead. He just thought like I
Hmm.
can get like some closure on this. Um, and they do agree to it. And I'm also like, that's weird. The dad hated Frank. He shouldn't have agreed to that. Um,
That didn't seem that weird to me. I feel like it was almost like them all wanting some closure, where I don't know
yeah.
that any of them were under the assumption that she was deceased. They
Yeah.
all just kind of felt devastated that she left and they never heard from her.
Yeah. Um, but Frank thinks that Frank actually thinks it's one of them and even like gets their fingerprints just in case, which
Hmm.
I also was like, well, that's the mom's suitcase. It's gonna have fingerprints on it. But um he did think that like if something happened to Rosie, he was waiting on the lane that night and he would have watched her leave. And so he like someone in the house must have done it. Frank then asks Kevin to go talk to the parents and placate them while he goes and gets more information. He just needs more
Hmm.
time before all of this comes out on the lane. And he goes and talks to Mandy, who's one of Rosie's old friends. We had a
Yeah.
flashback where we found out that Mandy liked Shay back when everyone else did
Everybody
as
likes
well.
Shay.
Yep, and it and this flashback was like kind of a joking, and it happened the week that Rosie disappeared.
Hmm.
Mandy discloses that Rosie didn't hadn't told any of them that she was still with Frank. They had kept it quiet for 2 years because her father
Hmm.
hated him. He didn't really know why, but they had gotten drinks in the week leading up to the runaway, and Rosie hadn't told the girls that she said she was with them. So Mandy had wondered if she and Frank were seeing one another again when that happened. The dad had taken away Rosie's keys at that time. Mandy points out, like, yeah, he always thought she was a kid. So, like, she was out and about and he didn't know where she was. So he took her keys. And I was like, I
Yeah.
understand this is the 80s, infuriating to do that to a 19-year-old woman. Like, to be like, you left without permission. So I'm taking your keys. Wild. And so,
Which she
Rosie
had
came
to like
over.
climb over a wall. Wasn't that the situation then?
Yes. So she had told Mandy about him taking the keys, and Mandy had looked at Rosie and realized like she looks really adult, something's about to go down. And I don't
Hmm.
know if that's also like a retrospect thing where like yes, of course you think the last time you saw your friend you knew something, but
Sure.
that is what she remembers. And so with the fact that the dad had taken the keys, it puts other people in as suspects because she would have had to leave from the back door and climbed over the wall.
Yeah.
Um, and Frank ends up not telling Mandy about the suitcase, and he just says like Rosie dumped him hard. He talks to Kevin about the roads, about leaving the back door, and they discuss that a dog used to live in one of the yards, so you couldn't just like hop the yards. You had
Hmm.
to go back into another lane and then climb back over around 16 Faithful Place because it was like the one place you could climb into.
Hmm.
And Frank remembers hearing a man grunting and a girl squeaking, and he thought it was people having sex, but now he knows that it might be someone attacking Rosie, which is devastating to
Yeah.
think about, to realize like
I
in that
know.
moment
That made me
something was
so
happening
sad.
to the woman
There's
that you loved and you didn't realize. It's so heartbreaking. It's devastating.
it's also heartbreaking from Kevin's standpoint too. Like I have not been in that exact same situation, but have been in a situation where like I have walked by someone and
Hmm.
thought they were okay and come to find out they were like having a medical emergency and didn't realize. And I think about that moment all the time where like I didn't realize this person was in their car and that they needed help. I thought I was just like waving to someone in their car and
Yeah,
like I can't imagine like that type of situation that someone like thinks back on
right.
that and is like, okay, that. because I think about that happened years ago, and I can't imagine Kevin thinking about this like, oh, now this
Do you
is,
mean Frank?
or,
Or
well, I was thinking Kevin too, like hearing the noise, or was it Frank that heard
it
the
was
noises?
Frank who heard the
Okay, they're
noise.
having the, yeah, Frank
Yeah.
hearing the noises, and
Yeah.
then not, and like thinking back on this, and like, oh my gosh, I can't even
It's so sad.
imagine.
So he and Kevin do go into the rundown house. They discuss it. It was a huge hangout spot. Frank lost his virginity there. It is very much like high school of like covered in grime, but people didn't care if
Hmm.
they had their own unique spot. And Kevin says that someone put out rat poisoning when he was younger and it caused rats to die in the wall and it reeked. So everyone moved down the lane to like a
Hmm.
parking lot. He also, so Frank is like, okay, well, we need to look everywhere. He wants to go down in the basement. And Kevin is like, I don't want to go down there. Don't you remember Shay locked us down there when I was little? And Frank is like, dude, pony up. What are you talking about? And so they go down into the basement. Frank sees this slab of concrete and he steps on it and it shifts, meaning that it was placed
Hmm.
down there. And then he has this eureka moment and it is so heartbreaking. He asks
I
Kevin if the
know.
rat smell was right after he left. And that's when
Hmm.
he calls in the tech bureau.
Yep.
They come in and Frank watches the scene with Kevin and Shay until he sees the tech people reacting. He runs inside using his badge and he sees a skeleton and this dark matted hair.
Yeah.
He talks about how he still didn't believe it until that moment that Rosie was
Hmm.
gone, and now murder is coming on the scene.
So sad.
He comes out, and again, pandemonium, where the lead officer, like Frank, is yelling at him, being like, "You're a piece of shit." Blah, 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 blah. And then Mr. Daly is on Frank, screaming at him
Hmm.
that it's his fault. And the
There's
officer
just
is
so
like,
many emotions in all of this, and it's very emotional as a reader to
I,
get through all of this too.
well, and it is just like it's kind of showing where it is this lane of people. It's like multi-family houses, so everyone's
Hmm.
on the lane. Everyone's seeing Daly scream at Frank, and Frank is like also having a strong reaction where he's like, "That was my Rosie. That wasn't your Rosie," and it's just like very
Hmm.
heartbreaking. And so the police end up pulling Mr. Daly off of Frank,
Yeah.
and Kevin asks if Frank is okay. So then we meet the head detective from Murder,
Hmm.
Mick Scorcher Kennedy, a nickname Frank gave him, where he's like, I called him Scorcher, and he did not like it. And they
Which
are
is baffling because I think Scorcher is kind of a cool
that's a
name.
pretty cool name, but it sounds like Mick is a very like pinned up
Yeah.
and straight laced straight shooter, and so
He's
like
just
if
like,
he
don't
probably
give me a nickname.
don't give me a nickname. And they were in the academy together. They're constantly in competition. But shockingly, this is where I'm like, Frank is the most normal of all of the characters so far, of the main
Hmm.
characters, where he's like, here's everything that happened, Mick. And he's just being a straight shooter. And I'm like, wow, the other two could never. But he does
Yeah, true.
downplay how much he was still in love with Rosie under it all. He's like, oh, we were just old flames way back when. It's not, it's different. Um, and they go out for a drink where they go over everything. And Frank tries to get on this case, which I did say
Not
because
good.
don't do that. But
Also
Scorcher,
not good to downplay his relationship, but
I know, but Scorcher isn't biting. He also hints that Frank would be a primary suspect, so he definitely can't be on the case.
hmm.
Um, they go over the others. Frank says how everyone loved Rosie, and Scorcher's like, dude, if she was pretty and fun, someone hated her. Like, don't be
Yep.
stupid. It was a woman in the 80s. Like,
Yep.
so the bartender recognizes Frank's last name. Everyone recognized that it was a cop. It's kind of like an old school bar where like women used to
Hmm.
not even be allowed in there. So great. Um, and Scorcher like heads out, and Frank has like this maudlin remembrance of the last time he met up with Rosie at like a pub for the university where no
Yeah.
one would recognize them. They discussed what they were doing, how they were running away together, and what should happen. Rosie seemed to get edgy, which wasn't like her. She said she isn't. She said she was scared of someone trying to stop them,
Hmm.
and just like overall, like, are we really thinking through everything? And so
Which
they
seems
just
like normal teenage stuff you would think.
yeah, I would think. And she also talks about like how they're gonna be roadies and how their parents wouldn't support that of like going and trying to be happy and
Hmm.
just like go out and see the world.
Well, she's very much like, yeah, my dad's gonna be suspicious. Like, I don't know if this is like the best thing to do. Like,
Yeah.
we might have just been like too optimistic.
And when she's like, well, and they might think we're getting too big for our britches. And
Well, and then it's even mentioned like, oh, you're just gonna miss your family.
yep. And he's kind of like, no, I'm ready to leave my family. I'm not going to miss them. And Rosie also talks about how she's like not going to pretend to be married to him to get like housing. They just kind of keep making plans. We find out
Hmm.
that Frank did look for her after all of this, but he never was able to find her. So there's a little bit
Yeah.
of everything going there. But then Frank's siblings descend because the bartender told them where they were. They
Yeah.
start drinking, and he tells them that it was Rosie who was in the slab. And she makes a joke that Frank is back for good, pretty much, and he'll be there at Christmas now. And Frank says he will not. They discuss why Frank left and how he left because he would have died for Rosie daily. And when she was gone, it was kind of like nothing mattered, pretty much. And they
Like the
discuss
lights went out. Hmm.
what you would die for. And Shay talks about how he would die for family. And Shay also makes fun of Kevin for not being able to die for anything and that his job is kind of useless. And there's a lot going on, but Frank eventually sees that like Kevin and Shay are having a heated argument about Kevin's job because
Yep.
Kevin's kind of like a salesperson and Shay doesn't seem to think it has a good value for
Hmm.
work. And Kevin's like, my stuff is going to get me experiences. I'm going to Australia and I'm doing all these things. And Shay is like, nope, you're not because the country is about to fail. And he points out that the guy who's building luxury complexes that had 16 Faithful Place scrapped the project. Like, this isn't going to go well. Then Shay talks about how he has money coming in and he reveals that the shop he works at is giving him first refusal to purchase.
Hmm.
Um, Carmel freaks out. She asks if that's going to be happening soon because it means him moving. He lives above the parents' house or
Yeah.
apartment right now. And if he owned the shop, he would live above the shop and he wouldn't be able to make his own hours anymore. And
Hmm.
Frank realizes that the dad is still hitting their mother.
Yes.
He asks about it, and Shay freaks on him, saying it's none of his business and they take care of
Hmm.
it. Shay also says that Frank, Jackie, and Kevin are all pampered because they got to finish school, and he and Carmel dropped out at 16 to get money on the table when their dad wasn't working consistently.
And this is very much a dynamic of older siblings versus younger siblings, especially in
Yes.
situations like this where unfortunately a lot of times older siblings are forced to grow up faster than
Yes.
younger siblings are, and they garner a lot of resentment towards the younger siblings because of such.
Very, very much so. And also, like, there are just specific dynamics of like younger siblings sometimes do get to take more risks by like going out and like getting different jobs because the parents are
Hmm.
more secure once the youngest sibling comes through. And so, like, a lot of this makes sense. It just like, it's hard when you're just seeing a lot of people who are in so much pain hurt
Yeah,
one another.
yeah. And if you're the older sibling, like you're a child being asked to do things that a child should not be asked to do, and you're not understanding why your younger sibling, who is not maybe that much younger than you, is not having to do the same things. It seems there's a lot of unfairness that exists, and I think a lot of times blame is misplaced, and
Yeah.
it's just very unfortunate.
Yeah, it's a hard section because like I do
Hmm.
feel bad for everyone, but I do feel
Everyone,
frustrated. Yeah.
everyone has a bad situation here, and unfortunately, it's a product of the system, and
Hmm.
your parents mess you up.
Yes. And so Shay says, like, this is where it is a problem because Shay is like, you guys never lost anything like I did. And Frank is like, I lost stuff too. And this is the hardest part for me where Shay and Carmel are both kind of like, you guys didn't lose as much as we did. And I was like, Frank was only a year younger than them. So
Hmm.
it is it is a specific choice French makes to make him so
Hmm.
close in age to them. Cause I'm like,
Yeah.
I would assume that those three would have been more of a control group of like those
Hmm.
three in it together. And then the other
You know,
two.
family dynamics are weird though, because
Yeah.
I can think of someone I know who is in her 90s now, and she held a lot of resentment for someone that she grew up with in her household who was very close in age to her, but this person, the woman in her 90s that I'm thinking of, had to drop out of school in order to help out the family. And the other person in her household who was slightly younger than her did not have to drop out of
Yeah.
school.
That's
So
true.
family dynamics are weird, and the reasons that they ask one person to do something and not another, it's sometimes very random and doesn't make sense. And so those resentments do build. And I, create really bad relationships.
Yeah, and that's true too. It was just like very random to me because like I feel like we didn't see that on the page as much. It was just kind of
Hmm.
told to us.
Hmm.
Um, but
And I think it's also an interesting perspective though, because like if we're seeing this through Frank's perspective, like he's only like we're seeing how he reacts to his siblings saying these things to him. So we maybe don't get that perspective of like
yeah,
exactly how his siblings had to go through these things as well.
yeah, and that is fair because they did have to drop out of school and he didn't.
Hmm. Yeah.
But he does reveal that he blames his family for Rosie breaking up with him. That
Hmm.
right before she had left, the dad had been trying to um their dad had tried to break into her house and the family had been in the street trying to get
Yeah.
him back home. And that's why she left him. But Kevin points out that she may not have even left. And then Shay takes that moment to start taunting Frank that he slept with Rosie. And this is the part where I do get very frustrated with Shay as a character. Um,
Just here?
I mean, I get frustrated with him a lot, but there are certain moments where I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
don't make me hate you. But Carmel pushes Shay away and she like starts kind of placating him, and Jackie and Kevin take him out into the parking lot.
Hmm.
And Frank is like, I wasn't the one starting stuff. He started stuff. Why was I the one forced to leave? And they point out that it's Shay's bar. And he's kind of like, this is my neighborhood too. And it's like, no, it's not, Frank. It is
Yeah.
specifically not.
You
Um,
walked away.
he says he shouldn't have come. He screams at Jackie for making him come. She walks away. Frank sends Kevin after her, and Kevin's like, well, will I see you soon? And he's like, no. So Frank tries to call Scorcher, who won't tell him anything because he's a straight shooter. And then he
Well,
goes and he sees the pathologist Cooper,
oh.
who does tell him some things because of his relationship with Rosie.
Hmm.
Um, Rosie appeared to be wearing all of her clothing. It was intact, but that doesn't mean that she wasn't assaulted, and she was
Sure.
asphyxiated by someone who was very strong.
Yeah, her
Um,
hyoid bone was broken, which is the bone like right under your
and he does think about like how much he
chin.
loves her laugh and everything, and it's very sad.
Hmm.
Um, and they can't tell anything about the fingernails because he wants to know if she fought, and he just like
Sure.
doesn't get all the closure that he would like.
Hmm.
Um, so Frank goes and apologizes to Holly, his daughter, for deserting her all weekend.
Yeah. How hard
Explaining,
too to try to manage that type of situation too, where you're like, I'm letting down my daughter and I need to explain why, but I don't want to put all of this on her.
yeah. And he does explain to Olivia that he lost someone from his old neighborhood a while ago. They just found out about
Hmm.
it. And Liv now knows it's an old love. Then he takes Holly out. When Jackie stops by, the three of them go out together. We find out that like, Jackie does have a relationship with Olivia. She is an integral
Hmm.
part of their life. And they discuss the past. So the Saturday before he was supposed to leave with Rosie, his dad literally tried to break into the Daily house when Frank wasn't home. The others pulled
Hmm.
him off, but the cops were called, and Frank came home and everything was in shambles. The dad had been working at the time. He had drinking himself into gin. It made him feel bad about himself. And he always feared that this was why Rosie left because she finally saw
Hmm.
how awful his family was. Um, During this time, Kevin keeps
And
trying to
that's
call
deeply
him.
sad to me too, honestly, because it kind of delves into the growing up in a bad situation and then having complex feelings towards your family and
Hmm.
yourself,
Yeah,
that you not only hate yourself, but you hate your family dynamic and think that other people will hate you because of it. Oh, it's
yeah.
so devastating.
Well, and during this time, um, his brother's also trying to reach him. Kevin is, and he's just ignoring him. He's like, I'm not
Hmm.
talking to him right now. This isn't
Mm.
happening. Um, and it's very sad. Um, and Jackie, he kind of asked Jackie, like, hey, do you want to go out? Let's go do something. And she's like,
Get
nope, I
some
have to
pizza or
go.
whatever.
And so he goes, he takes his daughter out. And he goes like out with friends that evening. He's kind of
Hmm.
just hanging out, doing what he needs to do. But then he, oh, and during this time, sorry, he talks about how he didn't speak to anyone in the family because he had already paid his way out, which is a very
Hmm.
interesting phrase. Um, but then he gets a call from Jackie, and she,
I do want to say just quickly though, I do
yeah,
like in this moment too how he is kind of reflective on his daughter and wanting her to kind of have more respect for herself and hear better things from him as a parent too.
Yeah.
And he's also kind of just reflecting on like things that he loves about her and how I think he mentions like I hope I never get tired of watching her like play and be
Yeah.
at the park and stuff like that. And I was like I I like those moments where we're like he's dealing with so much that he's able to still center himself around his daughter and be like, I do deeply love my daughter and I hope that I'm able to give her a better relationship with her parents than I had with mine and I hope that she has more love for herself than I do for myself. And I thought that was
Even as he's yelling about her wanting the same shoes as a model.
yeah,
It's very
it's a
Frank is
different
a very real
level.
character. Like he's just
Yeah.
so real because he does have like he's trying to raise his daughter to be a good person. He cares very deeply, but he's also
But
someone
he's
who's
also
very
just like
broken.
not Kim
So,
Kardashian, not her.
yeah, exactly. So Jackie's in shambles. Kevin
Hmm.
is dead. He
Ugh,
goes back
this
to the
wrecked me.
lane. Kevin is behind number 16 and he finds out that he fell 20 feet and broke his
He
neck.
fell off the balcony, and
Mhm.
it's so the way that
Well,
this is described too is so
yeah.
devastating because he sees his brother and he's like, the fall, like the injury itself, has made him look old.
Old.
He's
Hmm.
disfigured. He looks old. I'm just devastated by that description in general.
Well, and he had the night before he'd been with the family. He had even walked Jackie to her car, so
Hmm.
no one knows why he was back there. He like all the men were kind of tipsy, but no one was drunk. It doesn't
Yeah.
make sense how this happened. Um, but Scorcher is there, and he says that it doesn't look like it's an accident, but there was no
Yeah.
evidence of a struggle, so he believes it's consistent with suicide. Frank points out that that would have been a surprise. He had no mental health issues, and Scorcher
Hmm.
asks if he has any enemies, and Frank's like, "I don't know. I don't know my brother."
Hmm.
But then Scorcher gives Frank a letter, and it's the first half of Rosie's note, which says she's actually leaving with Frank, and this is the happiest day of her life. And they
Yeah.
found it in Kevin's pocket, which Frank is like, are you saying that you think like Kevin killed her and this is his
Hmm.
regret? And Scorcher's kind of like, well, at least she didn't leave you. And it's very sad.
Oh,
Um,
it's so hard to like reconcile all these feelings of like questioning what's happening and like having a slight relief knowing like Rosie was happy to go with me, but at the same so that's like one relief, but at the same time, what happened to her, I'm like it's been all
yeah.
this time that I've tried to like push her away and I've never got over her. And now thinking my brother could be involved, it's just ugh. And he's
Well,
dead.
and
Oh,
luckily, I do really appreciate that Frank immediately is like, leave of absence. He is going to
yeah.
try to figure out what's going on
Hmm.
with his brother
Hmm.
because he's a detective and that's what he's going to do. But I was appreciative that he was like, I don't want my undercovers being affected by this.
Yeah.
Nothing is huge or big. So, like, he goes on a leave of absence, he leaves work, and he does have a sad moment where his chief is like, would you like us to donate somewhere for your brother? And he realizes he has no idea
I know.
what goes on in his brother's life.
Hmm.
Um, and so he does do some recon on Scorcher's team, and he decides to get friendly with one of the guys so that they will feed him information.
Yeah.
And he
Not great,
becomes
but
friends with a man named Stephen Moran.
Stephen,
Um,
young Stephen.
and so he pretty much talks to Stephen.
He's basically a young boy that he's like trying to manipulate by like, I'll take you under my wing and just kind of talk to you about your goals on the way up the
You
ladder
you want to be in undercover murder, and
or
I can
murder.
help you with that if you just tell me. And Scorcher won't
I'm
give a
glad to be
shit
your
about you.
mentor.
Um, and so Stephen Miranda's like, yeah, I'll play ball.
Hmm.
He is very much like, no, okay, sounds good.
I'm
Um,
willing to get some help.
and so they kind of have this agreement for him to call him first on anything. And that's that'll be his inside man moving forward.
Yeah.
Um, and so then he has to go back to the house where the entire family is having
Hmm.
this like wake of a day where everyone,
Yeah.
came back to be with them. And
And of course, everyone is just, oh, it is chaos.
it is chaos because immediately when he walks in, the mom is
She's
like,
like
you need to call
furious.
the detective and you need to tell him that my son would never have an accident where he would fall 20 feet. And he was like,
Hmm.
well, then what happened, mom? Like, what happened? She was like, he got hit by a car. He got hit by a car and someone moved him there. And it's pretty much like she doesn't want to admit that he could have committed suicide
Yeah.
because it would look bad in the neighborhood. Because,
Hmm. It's very much a perception game.
Catholics aren't against suicide.
It's
Um,
very much a perception game
and
too, because we're dealing
yes,
with a small town community where everybody knows everybody. They already have a bad image, and
hmm
she's trying to protect what little she can. And she's just like, no, I don't want the Joneses down the street knowing that this
yep.
happened or thinking that this happened.
And it goes back to the like you're speaking cop talk to me. You think you're better than me. Like there's so much
Hmm.
happening. And so Jackie like pulls him away, but then he realizes people are treating him very funnily
Yeah.
and they find out that people think he might have killed Kevin.
Yeah.
No one's willing to say that out loud, but like Rosie disappeared and he disappeared and then he's back
And just
and
the
Kevin
timing of it
died.
and everything, him coming back.
Yes. And like no one in the lane knows him anymore. So he is
Hmm.
the son who people just don't know. And
Yeah.
Jackie points out that no one would want to think that like someone else would do that. So it's just easier for
Yeah.
someone who's an outsider. And again, it's him realizing he is an outsider now. Um, and he talks to Carmel and she talks to him about like how Kevin was so wonderful and everyone loved him and her son loved
Yeah.
him. And how her son Darren has said like he was the only good one left or the only reasonable person
Hmm.
left. And she talks about how she was jealous of Kevin and how she was really jealous of him and Jackie. And she thought Frank up until yesterday because she really thought, or a
Yeah.
couple days ago, because she thought they hadn't been as affected as she and Shay had been by their family or their parents.
Hmm.
And they had like got to finish school and they had got to do
Yeah.
all these things.
They had more opportunities, and so she was like kind of hoping that they had done better for themselves.
Yes. And she had talked about how like the dad had found her kissing someone once and like treated her so horribly and screamed at her. And
Yeah.
she just didn't think her siblings had any of that. And Frank was like, I did see a lot of that stuff. It wasn't like I got away
Hmm.
from it. Um, and she's like, yeah, but it was different. And so he tells her that she's not a bad person for feeling that resentment. And I do think that that is the difference between Carmel and Shay is like Shay still
Yes.
wants to blame all the siblings. And
Hmm.
Carmel is thinking out of it more of like, we all were in a bad situation. It's just,
Hmm.
I, I recognize where mine wasn't as bad. And it's just hard for
Yeah.
me to curtail those.
Yep.
Um, and so,
Everyone, I think, is entitled to their own viewpoint in this
yeah,
situation. It's just really difficult to watch how a toxic situation can make people toxic.
yeah.
It's so hard.
But then when he's outside, all of a sudden the dad starts having a fight with Daly again, where he's like, "Get out of
Hmm.
my house." He starts screaming at him, and they have to like push the dad out in the yard. And Shay
Yeah.
is kind of like, "You wanted to see how bad he was, you deal with him."
Hmm.
And like, he asks the dad what's going on with his back. The dad's like, "That's my business. Don't talk to me about it." And then he's sitting there smoking. He's super drunk. He's talking about his son and how like he lost Kevin. And
Hmm.
Frank is kind of having none of it. And
He really calls him out, and he's like, you know what? You were drunk so much that you wouldn't even remember
yeah.
anything about Kevin. And
Well,
it's,
and he has this happy memory of like a thunderstorm where he thinks that it's Kevin and Frank. And
hmm,
Frank is like, that was me and Shay, Dad. And he's like, why would you rob me of the only happy memory I have of my son? And he's like, because it wasn't
it wasn't
real.
him.
Yeah.
You
And
were
he kind of talks about
deeply
like he does
alcoholic.
reflect on the dad being like a smart, intelligent person
Yeah.
who just had a drinking problem and who could never get past it.
I can't
Um,
remember exactly. Let me find it in here because
is
I'm
it
looking at the
the
ebook. Um,
one of my Da's tragedies was always the fact that he was
yes.
bright enough to understand just how comprehensively he had shat all over his life.
Yes.
He would have been a lot better off thick as a plank. I
Yeah.
do think that that is something that is deeply ingrained in alcoholics too.
Ugh. It
um,
it's such a
yeah.
heartbreaking thing to read.
And so it is sad. It's sad to know like that the dad is still hitting people and still being this person.
Hmm.
And so then he leaves and he's like, Dad's in the backyard, and he just walks out. And that sad tragedy is halfway through the book. Um,
This is a really tough book.
yeah, it is. This is the heartbreaking one. This is the one I
Hmm.
feel the most in, I think, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly. Um,
It's a huge shift from the last one where I felt like we were feeling a lot more like there was a lot more laughing. We were feeling zanier than
yeah.
do here, but I think it was a little more outrageous of a plot. And
Yes,
this is slightly, or I shouldn't say slightly, it's way more
it's definitely,
realistic.
yeah. It is sadder and it's just, it has more legs and it's more
Hmm.
realistic. And I think it'll lead us to like really great conversations.
I mean, it already has.
Yeah, it'll just be rough as we go through
Yeah,
it. So, Laura, who done it?
Shay.
Why do you think Shay did it?
Be real. Shay's got a lot of issues. Shay's the one. I mean, there's a huge resentment for Frank, and there's just a lot of things that probably happened that he probably had a lot of resentment towards Frank for trying to get out. He maybe came across something in the letter or something like that and tried to ruin it for Frank. I don't know for sure, but that's what I'm guessing. But it just
Yeah,
seems like there's too much happening with Frank to or with Shay for it to not be Shay.
yeah. Well,
I don't know for sure if that was something that Shay also killed him for finding out about it or what, but it's in my mind Shay is likely the
well,
murderer.
we will
It's
find
a
out
sad
next week,
situation.
everyone. But Laura, I'm glad you're enjoying it so far.
You know,
And
I am a sucker for depressing things.
aren't we all?
Except my own life. I'm not a
Welcome
sucker
to
for
the
that. I
world.
mean, I am a sucker because of that, but I'm not a sucker for it.
Fair, fair,
Yeah.
fair, fair. Well, I really appreciate this book. It is one
It's
of
great
my
writing.
it's a very good one. So I'm glad we're
Hmm.
reading this one. Um, I think it's one of the stronger ones out of all six. So I'm
Yeah,
excited to
excellent
finish
writing,
it. Yeah.
honestly. I think I
Well,
can understand why the author is so attached to the character because if you're writing a book that's this deep and you're having a character have these types of reflections and hardships throughout their life that you're readdressing, I can see why you would want to write more about them.
she definitely loves writing about Frank. So we
Hmm.
will read more about him next week. And in the meantime, everyone, thank you for joining us. And if you would be so kind, please rate, review, and subscribe. Rating, reviewing, and
Yes.
subscribing is a great way to bring other people to the conversation as we
Get them in the
dive into
mix.
the Dublin Murder Squad. And please keep an eye out for some amazing things coming down the pipeline. I think we're hoping to revive our Patreon soon
Hmm.
this month. And, we are setting up things like our TV Tuesdays for the year. So please
Yeah.
keep an eye on all of that. And,
And
you
if you
can
have any
follow us along.
suggestions for us, like let us know either
Please do.
via the socials or email, whatever you
And
choose.
those socials are OWWR Pod on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Tickety Talk or ourpod.com, as well as ourpod@gmail.com if you do want to email us. Those are
Hmm.
all
And we
great
have a
ways to reach
Discord
out to
too.
us. We have a Discord, and you can even text us from Buzzsprout app. So, like, I
Yeah,
think even in the
that's kind of
details of
cool.
this note, you can send us a text. So please do that. And, just follow us on all the social platforms,
Hmm.
download, rate, review, and subscribe. Like I said, they're all great ways to join us in the new year.
And thanks
So,
for listening today.
and join us next week. Bye.
Bye.